UFC Vegas 43, Miesha Tate taking on Ketlen Vieira. Now, we do know that Miesha Tate still has a lot to offer to the fight game. After the brief hiatus, she made a return to the octagon, delivered in a major way against Marion Renaud. Now, a little bit of a step up in competition here, taking on Ketlen Vieira. We'll see if Tate can deliver once again. Other than that, I promised you guys I was going to bounce back with a profitable event for UFC Vegas 42. That's exactly what I did. I went 3 for 4 on my official plays. Can't wait to discuss that entire fight card with you guys there. Also, was live in the flesh in Miami at BKFC 22. I want to tell you guys a couple of funny stories, a couple guys I bumped into over there. Some great action taking place over there too. Met Julian Lane, let me bang. I'll tell you how that all went. And with no further ado, I think that we should jump right into today's episode. Let's go.
The teller, the teller, the teller.
It's another day. Left jab, right jab. This is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim? Looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting. If you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go. I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller, the teller, the teller, the teller.
What is up, you guys? UFC Vegas 43. We got a mixed martial arts pioneer in Miesha Tate throwing down in the main event. We saw that she was victorious in her UFC return against Marion Renaud, but a step up in competition here against Ketlen Vieira. So can she keep the ball moving? First and foremost, if you guys don't know about Miesha Tate from her past, if you're new to the fight game, do your homework. I mean, an absolute legend in the fight game. This is a girl that always brings the fight, and I guarantee you she will be bringing the fight this upcoming Saturday against Vieira. So very excited for that fight there. Sean Brady taking on Michael Chiesa. We're going to start to see what this guy Brady's all about. Of course, a blue chip prospect, 14-0. Joanne Wood, I guess Joanne Calderwood chopped off the Calder. She seemed to have a little bit of an issue with the Calder, had to slice that off. I guess that's the case. I've been noticing on a couple websites that I've been doing research, all of a sudden her name is Joanne Wood. So if anybody wants to elaborate on that, I guess the easy route would be to say that she married a guy named with the last name of Wood, and it's just a coincidence that her last name was Calderwood. Let me not go on too much about that, but we'll figure out what went on there. Adrian Yanez takes on Davey Grant. I never thought I'd be saying that I'm excited to see Davey Grant throw down in a fight, and after the way things were going for him not too long ago, but Davey's been putting it together. He's been putting on exciting fights, and you guys know the deal with Adrian. Big fan of Adrian. Had the pleasure of chatting with him. One of the nastiest strikers in the game. Loma, Lookboonmee taking on Lupita Yanez. That's a very, very solid fight there, taking place in the strawweight division. And yeah, we're going to be getting into each and every single one of these fights. Please hit that like button for me. Please do. It helps with the algorithms. Hit that subscribe button too while you're at it. You guys know how we run this show. We're going to take a look back at UFC Vegas 42, which was a profitable event. Can't wait to tell you guys all about how it went. And then we'll be getting into the future fights that are taking place this upcoming Saturday. Also, remember, there's no fight card after this fight card that following week. So we're going to have a little 2-week break in time. Hopefully you guys will figure something to do with yourselves. Of course, there's always some combat action out there. So, hopefully you guys ain't, doing anything too crazy out there. Settle down. The fights will come back to us very shortly. Oh, and real quick, boys, I did mention I was at BKFC 22 this past weekend, Friday night, in downtown Miami, and gotta talk about meeting Julian Lane. Julian Lane, this is a guy, everyone knows him as this polarizing figure, from The Ultimate Fighter. Let me bang. He had the pink mohawk, wild dude. Real quick, I want to let you guys know, Julian Lane was one of the most solid guys I've ever met in the fight game. I mean, 100% legitimate. He was chilling there with this girl. We just said what's up to him. Me and my boy said what's up to him real quick. And Julian was literally telling us, like, hey, you guys ain't going anywhere, man. You chill over here, man. He was taking a bunch of pictures, making sure that pictures came out good. He was just I know he looks like he's stone-faced right here, man, but he was laughing, having a good time, and one of the better dudes that I've met in the fight game. I'm letting you guys know that right now. And you guys know Julian's been doing this thing over on the knuckle scene. He's been knocking guys out. So shout out to Julian. And BKFC 22 was legit. It was wild in Miami. I'm telling you guys, it was wild in that arena. When you're watching it on TV, it's really, you have no clue what's going on in the back scenes. I'm telling you, man, it's crazy. People are lighting up blunts. People are just doing their thing around that arena, bro. It's crazy over there. But it's funny because when I saw clips of how it looks on TV and just knowing what's really going on around the arena, it's funny. But it was a great time. It was great to get back into the fight scene, being there live. I told you guys, I haven't been doing that as much as of recently. Of course, the world's been crazy, but now everything's picking back up. I'm going to be hitting up these UFC events very soon. Very excited for that. And just wanted to touch upon that real quick and let you guys know, man, Julian's legit. He's legit now. And with no further ado, we're going to make our way over to UFC Vegas 42. Let's get over there. Whew. All right, of course, we had the big time main event between Max Holloway and Yair Rodriguez. That's basically what this entire fight card was about. But this entire fight card delivered. Of course, you know, not the biggest names from top to bottom, but you want to talk about a fight card that delivered. As I scroll down, you guys see the continuous amount of finishes. I mean, we almost had a finish in every single fight. And again, now we went 3 for 4 on this fight card, and really picked it the entire fight card in a solid way. Even fights that I didn't target from a betting standpoint, was picking dogs and whatnot. I really liked the way things played out. My reads were pretty solid on this fight card. In the first fight, we had Da Un Jung to take out Kennedy and Chekwu. He finished him in the first round, and you guys know that was the first play of mine, a 2-unit play on Da Un Jung. And I'll show you guys the write-up right here. You guys know you can go to my Instagram. You can see my bet write-ups. And we got him at a minus 120 line. The line got better during the fight week. I was really excited to see that. Da Un Jung is a very cerebral and talented fighter. And he's a guy that you guys got to keep an eye on. Kennedy was sitting there shelling up and was trading. Kennedy landed a couple of punches here and there in the beginning, but Da Un Jung was really gauging the distance, feeling him out, and started to just rain down shots. You saw him throwing the elbows, and he actually put him out. I mean, he really put him out. He dropped him. So Da Un Jung didn't even need to use his grappling. No inside trip takedowns, none of that. Finishes him on the feet, and that was a great way to start the card off. Well, guess what? We had another play. Back-to-back, right? Rafael Alves takes out Mark Diakese, the underdog play. I love hitting plays like this, especially when I see you guys in my DMs chirping about, you know, what are you thinking taking Alves? Reading the comment section, you know, you're going to have a couple of you guys poking at me there. But you know what? When I feel confident about a read, I'm going to go in on it. If you break down the tape on Alves, this guy is super talented. I had the pleasure to watch this guy fight live just a couple fights ago. I know what this guy's about. He loses his UFC debut, but he loses to Damir Ismagulov. Arguably wins around there. Ismagulov is a guy that could be fighting for the belt in the future, so you can't put him under the magnifying glass there. Diakese is such an overrated fighter. I truly stand behind that statement. You guys should have all been on this fight here. Now, look, on my bet write-up, I grabbed Alves at plus 165, but I was throwing action on him the day of the fight that was almost as high as a plus 200. So, you know, the line even got better. I really brought in a good amount of money there. It was a great way to start the card off. We started that card off right there. Boom. We were 2-0 on our official plays. Well, guess what? Our third play, it's going to continue right into the third play here. So we had Courtney Casey, the largest wager of the card for me. I had Courtney Casey to take out Liana Jojua, and I grabbed it nice and early at the minus 200 line there, through a 5.5 unit play on her. You guys should have all been on this very early because the line really blew up. It was up in the minus 300 range. You had to know that Casey was going to piece up Jojua on the feet. I like Courtney. I made it very clear that her record is not really indicative of who she is as a fighter. And she still needs to work on a couple things with her takedown defense. But I'm telling you, she's ferocious on the feet. She's a very solid fighter. And yes, I only had one more fight that I had action on, and we'll talk about that. It's going to be an L. It'll be coming up towards the top of the card. Sean Woodson looks great. His boxing's very legit. He has a ridiculous reach for the division. He's a guy we keep an eye on there. Andrea Lee takes out Cynthia Calvillo. Andrea looked very good in this fight. it's really good to see Andrea turning a corner here. I mean, we always knew that she had a lot of potential. She had a couple setbacks with the split decisions, but now she really seems to be hitting her stride, and she's a dangerous fighter in the division. So we keep an eye on her as she tries to work her way to a title shot. Joelle Alvarez, you guys know I had Joelle here. Little upset with myself for not locking it in as an official play. You know I had a little bit of action on it anyway. Grabbed them at a plus 200 line there. But I should have made it an official play. I kind of second-guessed myself, man. And you know, this is something I want to tell you guys real quick, man. Again, when you're hitting your reads, don't let the public and everyone get into your ears and say, hey, what are you thinking, man? Moises is going to school him. Everybody was telling me this. Moises is going to school him. You're crazy for taking Alvarez. It kind of makes you second guess yourself at times, but you have to trust the tape that you're breaking down here. Alvarez has a ridiculous frame for the division. He's talented with his jiu-jitsu. His striking is coming around beautifully. The guy is a blue chip prospect, and we've been seeing it time and time again. You know, a guy that also battled with Damir Ismagulov. I mean, Joelle Alvarez is the real deal. And, you know, Thiago Moises, on the other hand, is a very talented fighter, but I think that he's been very much overrated as of recently, and people putting a little bit too much stock into some of his performances. Let's not forget, you know, Michael Johnson was picking him apart before he pulled that heel hook. Okay, he was able to survive with, you know, with Islam there a little bit longer than a lot of other guys could. So, okay, too much stock put into all that. Okay, so Joel Alvarez, keep an eye on him, man. Yadong Song takes out Julio Arce. Thought Julio would have been able to put on a little bit of a better performance on the feet. You guys know I'm very high on Yadong as well. Yadong is a very talented fighter. His stock goes up in my book here. I think he's really, really starting to put things together. You take a look at his age, and this guy has a lot of potential. You're going to see growth from him every time he goes in there, putting in that work over at Team Alpha Male. That's exactly what's happening. This guy, talk about a blue chip prospect. I mean, this guy is going from that. He's turning into a contender slowly but surely in front of our eyes. Chaos Williams takes out Miguel Baeza. This is a fight that I'm very happy I stayed away as far as an official play goes. I like Baeza. I know he's a very talented fighter, but Chaos Williams is just straight chaos. The guy can finish the fight at any point in time, has a ridiculous reach. We talked about that, and it happened. So, you know, Chaos is just a disaster waiting to happen if you're betting against him. You don't want to do that, all right? Felicia Spencer takes out Leah Letson. Good to see Felicia get a big win there. Leah Letson, she had a long layoff there. Give the girl a break. Let's see how she bounces back from that. And this will take me to a four unit play that I did lose here. I had Big Ben Rothwell. I feel that we didn't even get to see this fight really take place. I mean, yeah, it did. Ben lost. He lost the fight. He dropped the ball there. He played the fight wrong, in my opinion. Should have been more patient. Should have been a little bit more defensive. And he should have waited for Marcos to kind of fizzle out, because that's what Marcos does. I mean, the guy really fizzles out and looks for ways to get out of fights once it passes the 3-minute mark of the first round. But Ben Rothwell did not do that. Ben Rothwell went into the line of fire and got tagged up, and it is what it is. You know, Marcos Rogerio de Lima has some nasty power early, but again, do not get it twisted, man. De Lima is a guy I still question his heart in a major way, and I'll still look to fade him against the right opponent. I felt very confident if that fight would have went to the second and third rounds, Rothwell would have started to take that fight over, man. Run the tape back on De Lima from his past fights, and you will notice that from him. But the guy has been looking good. His power is legit, and it was what it was. So before we get into the main event, I'll just brush upon how we did on the card. We had a 3.22 unit of profit on the fight card. Okay, another profitable event. I feel very happy about that. Go check me out on Instagram. You guys can keep up to date with all of my official plays and what's going on there. Now, in regards to the big main event fight that took place, Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. Holloway handles business, but we got to give props to Yair as well. Comes off the long layoff. Looked very impressive, in my opinion, against one of the toughest opponents you can face in Max Holloway. A couple of the judges had it 3-2 in regards to Max. So, you know, if Yair is able to win one more round, he takes that fight somehow. I really don't feel that those scorecards were really a good summary of how the fight took place. I mean, Max, in my opinion, was in control of that fight. Max went through a little bit of adversity at times, you know, took some shots, but showed once again that the guy is just made of steel. Was eating the leg kicks, eating head kicks to the face. You know, Yair ends up breaking his foot there as well. But just an absolute classic fight, an absolute war. Both of these guys' stocks go up. They go up from here, and if you guys missed this fight, you got to run this fight back. One of the better fights that we had take place in quite some time. And Max Holloway now bringing up the point that he has a victory over the lightweight champion already. But obviously there's business to be attended there with Oliveira and Poirier, and he does also have a loss against Poirier, so let's not forget about that. But again, this line was ridiculous. Max Holloway was a giant favorite. We saw the line up in the minus 800 range on some books. I thought that was a little ridiculous, a little bit disrespectful to Yair Rodriguez. Yair is still a very, very solid fighter, and I look forward to see him bounce back and have a big fight in the near future, or maybe give the guy a little bit of break. I know he's banged up right now, but Max, on the other hand, I know they'll be brewing something with Max very shortly. Epic fight card, a lot of finishes, like I said. It was a great one. Now, with no further ado, let's move forward to the upcoming fights that we have on the horizon. All right, kicking the card off, we have a strawweight bout between Luana Pinheiro taking on Sam Hughes, also known as Sam Page, hence the similarities to Rampage Jackson. As you guys can see, they look very similar. So, Luana Pinheiro, I do want to start with her here. Luana really grabbed my attention on her Dana White's Contender Series fight. Of course, she was victorious. She got the contract there, took out the undersized Stephanie Frosto, got the early knockout there. In her UFC debut against Randa Marcos, we definitely got to touch upon this fight here. In that fight, she looked very good towards the beginning of that fight for as long as it lasted. She looked very impressive, was throwing some beautiful judo throws, tossing Marcos on her head. You could definitely see that she's very skilled there. She is ferocious on the feet. She's technical. She has good pop on her shots. I mean, this girl really has shown to be a well-rounded fighter. Good ground and pound. She has the look. Her husband or boyfriend is Matheus Nicolau, a very solid fighter in the UFC in the flyweight division. So I mean that's definitely, those are definitely some very promising signs. I mean, her whole background and everything she has going on, she really has some potential. But I do want to talk about that Marcos fight. If you guys remember, she was looking very good. She was looking very good in that fight. She was winning the start of that fight for sure. If you ask me, she was slowing down a little bit as that round was progressing. I'm not saying that she was gassing out. We would really have to see more in that fight to really know how that was going to play out. But she was slowing down a little bit. She had a high output. In the midst of a scramble, if you guys remember, Marcos pushed out an up kick, and it clipped Luana in the face, and you could clearly see that Luana milked it. You could see it. I mean, you don't even have to slow it down that much to see that she registered that it was an illegal kick, and then she faked it almost as if it was like a soccer player, or as you guys call them in Europe, a football player, faking something to get a foul, which I don't necessarily have a problem with. If you're trying to get a point deduction on your opponent, that's all good. But she did it, and she took it to a whole nother level. She did not want to continue fighting. To me, that was a little surprising because she had a lot of success early in that fight, and she didn't want to continue to fight there. I guess you can look at it as if does she just have good fighter IQ and she's going to just get a W and then not have to put herself through any more drama in the fight. I mean, Marcos is a tough cookie, and Marcos was starting to pick things up. Or do you really want to put it under the magnifying glass and say that she knew she was starting to gas out and Marcos was taking over the fight? A lot of times, man, when fighters are in there, they know what's going on inside that octagon more than anybody does from looking from an outsider view. And Pinheiro knows how she feels in there. She's also a fighter. Keep in mind now, she has a lot of first round victories. I mean, look at this streak of first round victories here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So this isn't a girl that's necessarily so comfortable going to deep waters. And you want to talk about a fighter that will bring you to deep waters. Randa Marcos is that fighter. So that wasn't necessarily the best look. I know I'm kind of going in on her there. Sam Hughes, on the other hand, like I said, Sam Hughes, a very similar looking fighter to Rampage Jackson. That's where she got the nickname from. But let's talk about her fighting skills. She has a loss here. We're looking at the Loma fight, who we will be talking about here in a little bit. Loma, a very technical Muay Thai striker, of course. But in that Loma fight, Loma was actually getting some beautiful inside trip takedowns on Sam there. Sam was on her back for minutes of the fight. And, Loma is not necessarily the fighter that's really going out there to do that to you. I mean, she's out there to strike with you. So there's definitely some glaring holes in Sam's game, in my opinion. I definitely think that Luana is probably going to toss her with some judo throws. I think the X factor is how does Luana look in those later rounds, like we talked about. But overall, I really find it hard to believe that Luana should have any real trouble with Sam here. Sam Hughes she's 5-3. She has 8 professional fights. Losses to all legit fighters here. Vanessa Demopoulos, former LFA champion. Tisha Torres, you guys know she's on fire. Loma, Lookboonmee, I am high on her. And other than that, I mean, even you take a look at her amateur career, she's been in there with Lupita Yanez. And Lupita is a real deal. And of course, Sam was supposed to be fighting Lupita just over about a month ago in October. That fight fell through, so a little bit of a change of opponent. But she's been training, she's been doing her thing. She's 29. I think that Sam Page is going to be in for a rough night here. Luana's the real deal. We'll keep an eye on those later rounds, how Luana looks, if it even lasts that long. Don't be surprised if you see Luana Pinedo get an early finish. She's a very talented fighter. Like I said, a very well-rounded fighter too. She has options here. And we'll take a look at the live line. Pinedo already a -400 on some books in the -300 to 400 range, ranging for anywhere from 340, 375, all in that range there. So a pretty high favorite there. And I do side with Luana Pinedo to win that fight. And that's a girl that you guys want to keep an eye on. Put a little asterisk next to her name. Let's see if she can continue to progress with her skills and show us stuff. She will be the pick there. In the featherweight division, we got a matchup of Shailen Nerdenbeek taking on Sean Seriano. Of course, Shailen, the Chinese fighter, he had his UFC debut about 5 months ago. Fell short in that fight. And this is another guy that's coming over from China that a lot of the UFC brass and guys behind the scene are very high on. As you guys know, they're high on a couple of these guys coming out of China, fighting out of the PI over in China. A lot of these guys are coming out, and they're expecting some big things from some of these guys. We'll be talking about another one here shortly. But both these guys we're going to be talking about, both these Chinese mixed martial artists, they did come up short in their UFC debuts. Shailen, in my opinion, was the least impressive of the two that we're going to be talking about. And Shailen's last fight in his UFC debut, which we really got a great look at him against Joshua Kulibao. Now, he did win the first round in that fight, but if you remember in that fight, I know you see him throwing a left hook here. He was continuously looking for takedowns that entire fight, really pushing the pace, hanging on Kulibao's hips, really trying to drag him down to the mat, telegraphing a lot of his takedowns, and really wasn't having success in the fight with his takedowns. And that's not going to be a good look for the judges. When you're continuously going for takedowns and you're getting stuffed, it's really hard to win decisions like that. He was aggressive with his striking, but really wasn't that accurate, wasn't really landing a lot of shots there. He's a physically fit guy. He's tough. He does come forward. I do feel if he faces the right guy that is inadequate with their takedown defense, he's going to be ripping them down to the mat. And it might not even be solely based on his takedown skills, but just his relentlessness down there. He continuously goes for them. This guy does not give up on the takedown from what I saw from him. But again, fell short in his debut. He won that first round and then lost the next 2 rounds there. And, Kulibao's an okay fighter, not a guy that's really impressed so much as of recently. So, I mean, as far as gauging him on that fight, it wasn't that good of a look for him there. Has a loss to Zhu Hong, and also a tough Asian fighter, a tough Chinese fighter, a guy that they're very high on. 19-7 as a professional, good amount of experience for his age, and taking on Sean Seriano here. Sean Seriano is a guy that is a very talented striker. He's been putting in a lot of work with Henry as of recently. Henry Hooft over at Sanford MMA. And this is interesting too. I didn't even realize Erwin Rivera looks like he got out of jail or out of prison, or I'm assuming out of jail. He wasn't sentenced to prison because it hasn't even been that long of a period of time. So I'm happy to see that. I don't know all the details. You remember I put a little video out after that whole incident happened. I just said Erwin was one of the more solid dudes I've had a chance to interview and meet. I'm glad that things are working out for him, man. But you see Sean Seriano over here. Sean Seriano's been getting it in over there. And, Sean Seriano had a tough last fight. He had a very tough last fight because he had a lot of early success against Christos Giagos, hurt Christos bad in that first round. And then Christos ended up coming back in that fight, using his grappling, and ended up wrapping up a submission there. He got caught up with that Darce choke. But, it was just an absolute barn burner of a fight. And he got caught with it. Before that was on a 3-fight winning streak against Noad Lahat, Israeli fighter that was knocked out with a flying knee in his UFC debut, I believe. Nothing else really worth of talking about. But Sean Soriano, again, Sean Soriano, even in that loss against Giagos, showed the growth with his striking. He's always been a pretty nasty striker anyway. He's a dangerous fighter. 32 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach, a solid frame for the division. This guy's just, in my opinion, a guy that does have potential, that could be dangerous for anybody on any given night, and a guy that could really put you out. I think if Sean Soriano is able to stuff the takedowns, this is his fight on the feet all day. He has to keep this fight standing. I think he should be patient in there, not really try to get too chaotic where he ends up losing his balance or he gets caught out of position and gets taken down, and maybe gets caught with the sub, or just loses rounds by being held down in the mat. Again, you know his opponent will be relentlessly going for the takedown on him. But again, I just want to kind of harp on the work he's been doing over at Sanford MMA. You guys know, I'll continue to say it, I'm very high on what they got going on over there, and I do expect to see strides in his game every time he steps in there. At least in the meantime, he's 32. He's fine. He's not past his prime at this point in time. I expect to see the best version of Sean Soriano actually going into this fight. I know he's going to be extremely hungry after that loss that he just took. Maybe he'll be a little bit more cerebral in there. He'll be a little bit more calm, and he'll sit down on his punches and relax in there. And Sean Soriano, just to brush upon this as well. Sean Soriano had a stint in the UFC back in the day, right? Losses to Charles Rosa. I just saw Charles Rosa, man. That's funny that we bring this up real quick. As I was walking into BKFC, I'm coming in through the tunnel. Nobody in there but me and my boy. And of course, my boy's one of those kids that has a big mouth, kind of. And Charles Rosa's walking by. I didn't even really want to say nothing because he looked like he was in a rush. He was cornering this guy that fought on the fight card. If you guys watched the fights, it was this guy with the nickname Anarchy, whatever his name was. But my boy, of course, he's like, oh, that's Charles Rosa right away. So Rosa looked back, he chucked the deuce. But losses to Rosa, lost to Chaz Skelly, Tatsuya Kawajiri. These are all solid opponents here, man. A couple losses that are questionable on his resume, but this is a fight that I think that he should handle. We take a look at the live line. Soriano, pretty hefty favorite, almost as high as a -300 at this point in time. I think there's a clear advantage for him on the feet. Just got to keep it standing, and then this is his fight here. So stylistically, you guys know what you're looking for when you watch this fight. Soriano keeps us on the feet, should be able to handle business. Shailen's going to try to implement some type of ground game. And also, even on the feet, he'll try to push the pace and see if he can get something going there, but he'll be a little bit overmatched there. And the pick is Sean Soriano. All right, so we talked about some of these fighters coming out of the Chinese PI. Kyung Iori is one of the fighters we were talking about here. In my opinion, the more impressive of the two guys fighting on the fight card here. Although Iori did fall short in his debut, definitely a lot more action going down in that fight. And more potential was shown, in my opinion. Now he has a tough fight in front of him here. Cody Durden, in my opinion, is no joke. Cody's a well-rounded fighter. Has a long background in wrestling. He's shown to have some skills with his boxing as well. He's a tough outing. Has fights up at the bantamweight division. Here obviously fighting at the flyweight division. He's been in there with some really, really tough guys. Lost to Jimmy Flick, but you guys know Jimmy Flick's a magician, and he caught him with that flying triangle. Jimmy Flick retires. Real quick, I'll talk about Jimmy real quick, though. It's kind of just strange. Jimmy Flick retires from the fight game. Actually chatted up with him on IG a little bit. Retires after winning on Dana White's Contender Series, winning his debut, and just decides to ride off into the sunset. But he's a tricky fighter, so no real shame there. The Chris Gutierrez fight, you guys know I'm extremely high on Chris Gutierrez. In that fight against Chris, Durden went out there and 10-8'd him in the first round, controlled him from the very beginning of the fight, got a nice solid takedown, took his back, flattened him out there for a second or two, did some damage, then held his back and rained down some shots, and got a 10-8 there. And then he lost the next two rounds, right? So you get a draw. But Chris Gutierrez, a very, very talented fighter. Not a lot of guys are going out there and 10-8ing a guy like Gutierrez. So I do like what Durden brings to the table. Again, this is a guy that's a state champion wrestler. He has that wrestling experience. And I will talk about his opponent here, 18-A, Iori, the Mongolian murderer. Gotta love that nickname. Imagine certain types of people trying to have a nickname like that. Like, for example, if you were Greek, I guess your nickname would be the Turkish murderer, I don't think that you could do that, but I guess they can get away with that. So it's kind of cool. I guess there's a rivalry there or something, and you just flat out pick the nation that you don't like or that you're beefing with, and you say you're murdering them, and you could do that. So that's pretty funny. Imagine some other types of countries doing that. It probably would be really bad, but I guess they can pick and choose who could do that. But Iori had an amazing fight with Jeff Molina. Jeff Molina, another guy that I'm extremely high on, an extremely well-rounded fighter. Now, Iori actually won the first round of this fight. Okay, Iori looked very good. Iori is extremely aggressive, okay? If you don't know what he's about, this is a guy that is coming straight at his opponent, and I guarantee you Iori is going to be coming out in this fight pressing Cody. Now, Cody will meet him there as well. Cody has some solid power too, but Iori will be fighting for your dollar if you're looking to take him here. He's coming forward nonstop. Does have some flaws in his defensive game at times. He's so aggressive. We saw at the end of the second round, I believe it was, that Molina dropped him and stole that second round there when he dropped him with seconds to go. If he doesn't drop him there, that round's a little bit closer, and Iori maybe wins that fight because Iori won the first round, like I said, drops the next two. Now, one judge did give Molina a 10-8 in that third round, but still, the other two judges would have gave it to Iori. So that was a very close fight, and Molina's a very, very talented fighter. So the line, we're going to get to the line here in a second. Durden, 30 years old. Iori, 28. Both these guys, prime ages here. Iori's going to have a 2.5-inch reach. Both these guys the same height. So Iori comes in shredded, comes in with a great frame for the division. He's legit. I want to make that clear. I think Iori is a legit fighter and one of the top talents coming out of China. But I do think that Durden's very promising as well. I think that he's had some tough fights as of recently. I think he's going to come back and look stronger than ever. And this was that Jimmy Flick fight where he was caught. And you go back to the drawing board after a fight like that, and you really hustle and you grind out, man. You grind it out and you become a better fighter, and you look to bounce back with a W. And I think for sure that's what Durden's looking to do here. I think there's a good chance he does it. We take a look at the live line. We got Durden right now as high as a -140. So action coming in on Cody Durden. Opened up right around a -115. Now you see him right around that -135, -140 range, up to the -145 range. So action coming in on Durden. Again, this guy has a solid wrestling background. I'll take Durden here. I think that Durden can capitalize on Iori. If he makes some defensive mistakes, I could see Durden cracking him. Durden has solid boxing. He was tagging Gutierrez up on the feet as well. Even when he was dropping those rounds, he had his moments in the fight as well. And he has a solid wrestling pedigree. I'll take Durden right there. Got to roll with Durden in that fight. We got a really tough fight here. Terrence McKinney taking on Faraz Zaim. This was a fight, I'll let you guys know right now, as I was breaking the tape down and trying to make a decision. This is one I've been very torn on. And hence the line, right? The line is very close, so people are agreeing with me there. This is a hard one to call. Faraz Zaim, a very talented kickboxer, definitely has the striking background as he comes into MMA, fighting out of France, a rangy guy for the division, has a 75-inch reach. He's 6'1", and then on the other hand, you got McKinney at 5'10" with the 74-inch reach. And McKinney definitely has big time power, as we've been seeing recently. Man, really put it on for Vola. Saw him take out Vola in that fight. And that was a fight, I think he took that fight on short notice. McKinney is a guy that's battled his demons in the past. You guys all heard about the stories of him over on the West Coast, dealing with some type of hallucinogenics and like, I think he was chewing on a hamster's head or something like that. And then the police came up and broke it up, and he was sitting there and he had like fur balls in his teeth and stuff like that. I don't know there was some story, something went on like that, some craziness at a party. Either way, God bless him, because it seems like he's got his life back on track from everything we've been seeing. And he's really been grooving, man. 4 fights in a row, knocking these guys out. His last loss against Derek Minner, you guys know Minner is a legit fighter, got caught with the choke there. Only 27 years old, still young in the game, as is Zaim. As we said, only 24. I expect to see major strides from Zaim. Zaim training over at Sanford MMA over here. And, he already has that striking background. So you mix that with putting in work with Henry Hooft and all those guys over there. that's dangerous. This kid's going to be a dangerous guy, man. The frame he just has to continue to work on his overall game, work on his takedown defense, his ground game and whatnot. I mean, this guy is going to be putting guys out with knees and elbows and all types of things. Just a guy that can attack you from all angles. You see him over here with Rafael Fiziev. And, I mean, there's just a world of talent over there. I mean, you see him with Michael Chandler. It's just as legit as it gets. And when you got a guy like him that's only 24 years old, I just think that you're going to see real growth from the kid. Now, that being said, he's had some moments that although he's looked very good, since joining the UFC, he had a tough fight with Don Madge. Don Madge, the South African fighter, he just had a big win over in PFL, I believe it was. Don Madge is a legit fighter, so that was a tough fight for Don. For us, did make him work in that, and Zaim was just such a little kid in that fight. He was so young at the time, so no real shame there. Other than that, let's see here. Loses Don Madge, bounces back with 2 victories. Jamie Malarkey's been on fire, so that win really looks good as of now. The Luigi Vendramini, I think Luigi has proved he's a solid fighter. That was a big win. The only issue there in that fight was that Luigi, after he was down 2 rounds, Luigi started to kind of push the pace on for us, Zaim here, and really had Zaim kind of on the back foot, looking to kind of escape from trouble, and really wasn't engaging. So if Terrence can try to implement a style like that where he really cuts the cage off and really puts it on him, I got to see how Zaim handles himself there again, after he's shown to be a little shaky there. At the end of the day, though, I think that Zaim is the more technical fighter, and barring that he doesn't get knocked out by McKinney, I have to side with him winning from a point standpoint. I just think that he's more well-rounded with the striking. He's more diverse, and I know he's putting in some crazy work right now. He's shown to have good takedown defense too. He's very hard for his background. This isn't a guy that's just easy to be put down on his butt. As you saw, I mean, Madge tried that entire fight to get him down and could not get him down to the mat. When you got a guy that's as tall as he is, he has those long poles attached to his hips, man. It's hard to put him down. I mean, the legs are just always touching the canvas there. And I'm going to side with Faraz Zaim. We talked about the line being very close. Zaim, it's a pick'em. I mean, you got on some books, -110, -110. It's basically a pick'em. So pick your poison there. I like the Frenchman here. I like the move over to South Florida. And I like the skills that he already brings in to that camp with his striking. And I'm excited to see how far the kid can push it. I want to see what he looks like when he's 30. And that will be my pick. We got a fun one here. Loma Lookboonmee taking on Lupita Yanez. Fight taking place in the strawweight division. Loma is a girl that I'm always excited to watch performing there. Anytime you see a fighter come in with such a high caliber of a skill set and a certain discipline, I love to watch how they implement it into a mixed martial arts bout. And that's definitely what you see from Loma. I mean, Loma is a legit Muay Thai fighter. She works beautifully in the clinch. Her elbows are nasty there. Her knees. She's so calm and relaxed. I just really enjoy watching her fight. And as of recently, you see her mixing in different elements into her game. We talked about that Sam Hughes fight. She was mixing in inside trip takedowns, showing that she's not just a girl that's a striker, but she's working on her entire game. And what a lot of people don't realize is over in Thailand, there's a lot of great training that you can get for jiu-jitsu and wrestling and all that. It's not just a Muay Thai. They don't just teach Muay Thai over there. Of course, that's their specialty. That's what they're great at if you go to that part of the world. But they have a lot of experts from all around the world in all different types of disciplines. I mean, it's a legit fight country, man. So know that Loma's been getting in some legit work. Trains over at Tiger Muay Thai. Only 25 years old. We talked about fighters that you're going to see growth from. This is one of those types of girls. Only 5'1". She's a little bit short at times compared to her opponents, but Yanez is only 5'2", so I like to see a small size fight like this, or like a miniature type fight, right? 2 smaller girls. I like to see that because I feel like these fighters they're a little bit outsized at times, right? So Lupita is a girl. We could talk about the Jessica Pena fight. That was a fight that I thought that she did enough to win, but she definitely left some doubt in there, and she let it be closer than it probably should have been. And people were very high on her, including me coming into the UFC. She was the LFA champion. She took out Vanessa Demopoulos, bounced back with the victory over Silvana Juarez. Got the armbar there, looked good there, and then returned very, very quickly. Took on Luana Carolina, and she loses that fight in a close one, right? Some people thought that she should have won that fight. But again, she's letting these fights be close. She's getting hit with shots in there, and she has her moments. But at this point in time, I got to say, she's been a little bit of a letdown by losing these 2 fights. A lot of people had her going a little bit further than what she's done so far, or looking a little bit better. Loma, again, I talked about Loma. I like what I've seen from her. I'm excited to see her perform with the stand-up. I'm excited to see growth from her as far as her ground game goes, and her wrestling and whatnot, her takedown defense, all that. And you know, I'm gonna let you guys know right now, I'm gonna side with Loma here. I'm gonna take Loma to win this fight. If Loma can just keep this fight, where she wants it to take place, on the feet, in the clinch, try to avoid the scrambles, and just really be able to go out there and put on a show in that department, I think that a lot of fighters are going to have trouble beating her in the division. I really do. I think that a lot of fighters are going to have trouble. She's just very, very crafty. She knows, she's not like some freak athlete, but she knows what she's doing in there. She knows when to make the right movements. She's going to slip a knee into your ribs. She's going to crack you with an elbow. She's going to work your body with some boxing. I mean, she's a good fighter, man. And I like her here. I like her to win this fight. She's a slight underdog. You can catch her right around a plus 130 up to that plus 125 range. And, I will say this, man. Lupi is a solid fighter as well. Lupi, she's probably going to be more hungry than ever after having these 2 frustrating fights in her last 3 fights. She may have a little bit of a wrestling edge here. She's a ferocious fighter as well. She needs to step on the gas, though, a little bit. She really does. She still has that potential. We're not going to turn our back on her completely. But this is going to be a tough fight for her. And you see her over here with Alexa Grasso, one of the more talented Mexican fighters as well. So great to see she's getting that kind of training in. And I guess, is this Lupi here on the wrestling mats? Again, so we talked about that wrestling edge that she may have there. Of course, she's a tough wrestler. So, of course, an avenue for her would be to try to really try to get this fight down to the mat. She shouldn't really get too complacent striking with Loma, because I think Loma will shine there. But my pick is Loma. I'm gonna roll with Loma here. I just feel that Lupi's been dropping the ball. She's coming up short in these fights, and I really can't trust her against Loma, who I do feel is very talented. And both these fighters 6-2, and Loma will have a 1-inch reach advantage. Great matchmaking by the UFC brass here. This is a perfect fight, I think, and excited to see it. Hey guys, real quick, if you're looking for a sports book, you guys know I got one ready for you. I'll send over my referral link. You'll start off with a nice bonus. I'll even give you some free official picks of mine if you sign up through that link and you deposit at least $50 or more. I'm talking about bovada.lv, BOVADA.lv. It's my most recommended sports book in the game. 24-hour customer support, great payouts, easy payouts. They have a bunch of options. They have all types of betting lines on anything. They have prop bets. You could bet on politics, you name it. Of course, when it comes to MMA and to the UFC, they got everything there. And they got a lot more than just the UFC, man. They got BKFC, they got LFA, Titan FC, Dana White's Contender Series, Bellator. You name it, it's there, man. So if you're looking to join, shoot me a message. All my contact information is below. Shoot me a message. I'll send you my referral link, and I'm going to give you guys some of my official plays for free. All right, guys. Rafa García taking on Natan, Levy, the Israeli, 6-0, undefeated. Has a big victory on Dana White's Contender Series where he was able to shine with his submission skills. Submitted Shaheen Santana. Got that arm triangle choke there. Other than that, a couple of victories over on the LFA scene. Pretty much has grown up over in the LFA organization. We could take a quick look into the level of his opponents. I mean, you got Santana was really the biggest win that he's had. He was 6-0. He was undefeated at the time. Santana has since dropped another fight there against Jair Perez, who was 5-2. Other than that, a lot of opponents that were very green over in the LFA scene. I'm not completely sold on Natan Levy. I think he could be dangerous with his submission skills, but Rafa García, man. Rafa García is a tough dude. I know he's coming off of a disappointing loss to Chris Gruetzemacher. Rafa looked very good in the first round. hit him with some big shots. I think a lot of other guys are finished in there. But Grutzmacher is just so tough, and he came back, and Grutzmacher has great cardio and pushed Rafa to that limit there. But García throws very, very heavy hands, throws powerful hooks, decently competent with his overall game, his grappling, this and that. He's sharpening all types of skills. You see him sharpening iron here with Cub Swanson over at the Huntington Beach Ultimate Training Center. Of course, another Mexican fighter. You guys know the heart and the chin that Mexican fighters bring in with them time and time again. I mean, they just have shown to be such tough people, and García is definitely no exception to that. I mean, we've seen him eat some big shots against Grutzmacher, and you know, he was always in there looking for war. Ends up going to a decision. You know, drops those last 2 rounds there. He was all bloodied up, but never looked for a way out of that fight. So my hat off to Rafa. Natan Levy maybe can try to drag Rafa into deep waters, try to do something a little tricky here. But at the end of the day, you know, if he doesn't pull off some type of slick submission, I think that Rafa should have his way in this fight. And that's going to lead me to my pick, man. I like Rafa García here. We'll take a look at the live line. Rafa García right now, the line's been looking pretty close. Pretty much a pick 'em, you know, with Natan Levy as a slight favorite at a minus 125. So García, the slight dog, I guess you could call it. And this is a good fight. It's a close fight. I'm excited to see who's able to implement their strategy and their skill set here to pull off the W. That's a good one there. I'll side with Rafa García. Tucker Lutz taking on Pat Sabatini. It's a good matchup here. Both of these fighters, I do believe, just recently fought on the excuse me, no, it wasn't. Well, they did fight on the same fight card. So Tucker Lutz's last fight against Kevin Aguilar was on the same fight card as Pat Sabatini. That's where Pat took out Tristan Connolly. Pat Sabatini has since fought again about 2 months ago against Jamal Emmers. Pulled off a very, very impressive victory. Got that heel hook against Jamal Emmers. Jamal Emmers is no joke, a very talented fighter. So Sabatini really, really showing some wrinkles in his game with the submission skills. We already know he's a talented grappler, but showing fight-ending ability down on the mat there. You know, a hard-nosed grappler. This guy can rip you down to the mat. Extremely durable. He could eat shots. And Pat Sabatini, you know, we'll run through his career real quick, at least as of recently. A lot of fights over on the CFFC scene. You know, one of his lost to Robert Watley, a very talented fighter. Fighting out of the UK, I do believe. Victory over Tony Gravely. You guys know he's a UFC caliber fighter, of course, in the UFC, a very talented fighter. You know, had a split decision loss to Jose Mariscal. And then since then, winning fights here. Had an injury against James Gonzalez. So a little asterisk next to that loss there. And then now he's on a 4-fight winning streak. And again, the Tristan Connolly fight. In that fight, he was definitely, you know, heavily looking to grapple. He wasn't really looking to trade too much on the feet. There were some moments there, but you know, he really looks to impose his will with the grappling. And you know, stylistically, this could be a tough fight for him because Tucker is a guy that I do feel is very competent with stuff in the takedown and being able to grapple himself. I mean, this guy is a very stout guy. He's you know, he's a tough dude. I like the power that he carries in his hands. Throws heavy hooks. This isn't really a finesse type of fighter, in my opinion, is Tucker. I don't think he's a finesse fighter that's just touching you up with jabs. I mean, he throws some power shots in there, man. He's really looking to clip you. And even if he doesn't put you out, I mean, his shots, they wear on you. They do damage. You see his opponents bloodied up. I've liked what I've seen from Tucker. You know, Tucker is a Dana White's Contender Series veteran as well. Take a look into what he's done. He's 12-1 as a professional here. You know, took out Chase Gibson. That was the Dana White's Contender Series fight. Then took out Sherrard Blackledge. So that was his second fight on Dana White's Contender Series because the first one was a little bit of a lackluster performance. Wasn't so exciting. Dana didn't give him the contract, but gave him another opportunity. Gets the contract there. Then he goes out there and takes out Aguilar. Pretty much styled on him in that fight and won pretty convincingly. Before that, you see a couple knockouts here and there throughout his career. Stopping a good amount of his opponents. Like I said, does have some good pop on his hands. This is a tough fight here. Talk about fights that are hard to pick. This was another fight that I've been a little bit on the fence with. Again, Sabatini showing those wrinkles down on the mat. I like Sabatini's grappling ability. Is he going to be able to get this fight down to the feet? Because I do think that Tucker has an edge on the feet. So there could be some problems there for Sabatini if he's not able to get it to the ground. But he's looked pretty impressive with his ability to get it down to the mat. So a little bit of an X factor there as you look into the stylistic matchup. But both these guys are good at all aspects of fighting. These are very well-rounded fighters at the end of the day as well. I like Tucker here. I do like Tucker, man. Tucker's been looking good. Take a look at how these guys match up here. Physically, Tucker, 4 years younger, 27, so still some more room for growth, in my opinion. A little bit more rapid growth, although we'll still see growth from Pat. 18 professional fights. I know he's working on his striking. Put in work at Renzo Gracie. I know he's put in a lot of work there. I think that's his main base. Again, that's why he's a very, very solid grappler. Lutz is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Both these guys match up with the same height at 5 and they're 5'8", excuse me, 5 feet 8 inches with the height. And like I said, man, I'm gonna roll with Lutz here. Lutz, a slight underdog. Take a look at the live line here. Lutz right now, a little bit of action coming in on him. Opened up around a plus 145, excuse me, guys. Now settling right around that plus 120 range. A little bit of action coming in on him. I guess people are reading the teller's mind out here, and they're seeing what I'm seeing. Lutz is a solid guy. Maybe I think that this fight should be closer to an even line, in my opinion. So I think that's what people are starting to see, and they're starting to even that line out. So at the end of the day, though, I'm going to side with Lutz, because if Lutz is able to keep this fight standing, I think he has an edge on the feet. We saw Connolly have some success in the feet against Sabatini, and Lutz has shown to have good takedown defense at times. So, I mean, he will be tested a little bit more so here with the takedown defense, but I say he can pass the test here. It's a good fight. I'll side with Lutz. Who better to kick off the main card than Adrian Yanez, the Knockout King? I know Derek Lewis has Knockout King tatted across his chest, but Adrian Yanez might want to look to invest in getting that across his chest, because this guy goes out there and has been knocking dudes out left and right. Ever since Dana White's Contender Series, he knocks out Brady Huang, former champion over on the regional scene, bounces back with the victory over Victor Rodriguez, knocks out Gustavo Lopez, and the most impressive knockout over Randy Costa, where he had a little bit of a slow start. Costa, you guys know he's very, very dangerous as well. And Adrian Yanez, he stays cool, calm, and collected in there, and eventually ends up getting the knockout over Randy. Adrian Yanez, in my opinion, there's been all these talks about who's the best boxer in MMA. I'm not saying Yanez is the best boxer, but this is a guy you could throw his name in the hat. The technique on his hands and his boxing skills is nasty. We know that boxing was his main discipline. His dad was a big boxing fan. His dad was a ex-boxer. I think he was a professional. I'm not sure. Maybe just an amateur boxer, but boxing runs in the family. This was an interview that I did with him after his Dana White's Contender Series win. I look forward to getting another interview with him in the near future. We talked about it then. You know, this guy, he can become a star very quickly. I said it on the interview, and look at him now, man. This guy's really carved the name out for himself, and a couple more victories, and this guy is really one of the top dudes in the division. He's working his way to become a household name. This guy delivers, and he has the skills. Now Davey Grant's a fun fighter, a guy that has power in his hands. He's looking for the kill as well. I think stylistically this has all the makings to be a fun fight. I think that Davey could be in some real trouble here, though. Davey tends to eat a lot of shots. Sometimes he ends up landing his own and finishing his opponent anyway after he eats them. But Yanez is not a guy that you want to take his shots. I mean, he'll put you out. And yeah, we saw Davey Grant come back against Martin Day, get the 3rd round knockout. The Jonathan Martinez knockout was a really big victory for Davey. I mean, we know that we know that he's a very, very solid opponent. So that was a big victory for him there. And you know, we look at Davey Grant's age, 35 years old, but this is not a guy that slowed down, especially in the bantamweight division too. He has not slowed down. I know he's coming off a loss here against Marlon Vera, but you guys know Chito, one of the top dudes out. No real shame in that. Grant has definitely done something with his career to elevate his skill level. I mean, not too long ago, he was going out and losing to guys by the name of, Damian Stasiak, the Polish fighter. You know I'm not high on him. The Chris Holdsworth fight, you guys know Chris was a solid undefeated fighter. Manny Bermuda is a very talented submission artist. But the Damian Stasiak fight was a real sore in his resume, but has shown to really to have gotten things going here. And you guys know which way I'm going to go with this fight, man. I'm definitely leaning Adrian Yanez. Adrian Yanez, in my opinion, has full potential to get another knockout victory here. I think that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing Yanez get the knockout. I think Davey will sit and trade. But be careful now, because Adrian Yanez ate some shots against Costa in the first round, man. He was bloodied up. If you guys remember, Davey Grant has fight-ending ability. The fight game's crazy. 4-ounce gloves. Does Grant clip Yanez? Does Yanez all of a sudden show that he's human? I think not. I think Adrian Yanez goes out there and he's just too skilled and too polished of a boxer for Davey here. And so Adrian Yanez is the pick. We take a look at the live line. Yanez right around that minus 260 range up to 265, and a relative favorite there, as to be expected. Joanne Wood taking on Taila Santos. I think I used to call her Talia, but it's really Taila Santos, I believe. Sure, somebody will be in the comment section going after me here. Go right ahead. Maybe you can go after me for pronouncing Joanne's last name Wood. What's the deal with this? I thought it was Calderwood. Did she marry some guy named Wood? What's going on over here? Somebody please explain. Joanne Calderwood's been around the game for a long time now. She's now, 35 years old. She has 21 professional fights. I remember her being on the Ultimate Fighter show back in the day, making a name for herself. I remember back in the day, if you guys remember, there was a book that offered a crazy betting line if there would be a Scottish UFC champion, and somebody had it locked in before they found out about Joanne Wood. And as she was the favorite to win that show, and people started to really catch wind of her, and some sports book ended up like closing the line, or they did something shady and there was a whole lawsuit. But anyways, way back in the day, right now, Joanne Wood, Jojo, we'll call her Jojo here until we figure out what's going on with this last name situation. Jojo is just a girl that's she's tricky on the feet. She's technical. She does eat a lot of shots, though. She gets bloodied up. She's a tough girl, a real tough cookie who's going to continuously come forward. Coming off a loss to Lauren Murphy, a split decision loss. Before that, took out Jessica I. Lost to Jennifer Maia before that. Before that, she took out Andrea Lee. That win's looking pretty good right now. Before that, she lost to Ketlen Chikogian. Ketlen's really doing her thing as well. So all high-level fights there. Win-loss, win-loss. She's been in there with a lot of top fighters. Taila Santos has really been looking good, in my opinion. She comes in very physically fit. I mean, she's really, when you see her in there with her opponents, I mean, she seems to be just a little bit on a different level from a physicality standpoint. She's explosive. She's athletic. She has real power on her shots. She's strong. And look at the physique on her here, man. I mean, this is a real athlete. And you know what? She had that one sore loss there, and one loss of her career against Mara Barella, the split decision loss. And I think it just was an off night for her, because she's been looking absolutely great. Styled on Molly McCann, worked Jillian Robertson, stuffed the takedowns. She showed she could stuff the takedowns, work her on the feet. Roxanne Modafferi outclassed her there. Santos is legit, and she's a minus 300 right now. We'll take a look at the live line, right around that 300 range. And I mean, listen, Jojo can definitely make a fight close with anybody in the division on the right night. I mean, her fights always tend to be pretty close. But right now, we got to understand that Santos is really doing her thing. And she's the superior fighter here, in my opinion. I expect her to land the heavier, cleaner punches. And that's why I'm definitely going to side with Taila Santos to win the fight. I got her winning the fight. And I could expect to see a bloody Calderwood in this fight. But yeah, we're rolling with the Brazilian here. We got the miniature Damian Maia, Yahya, taking on Hyung Ho Kang. This is very much a stylistic matchup here. Striker versus grappler to an extent. Yahya, a very decorated and skilled grappler. This guy will literally rip your limbs off. He'll finish you. He's a leech with his grappling. Kang has shown flashes to be a very talented striker. Coming into this fight with a larger frame. He has a 5-inch reach advantage. He's 3 inches taller. There's some signs for Kang here. But this is nothing new for Yahya. Yahya is a guy that's been undersized in fights. He's gone in there. He closes the distance. He constantly finds ways to win fights, constantly finds ways to submit guys. Yahya is a guy that I've been watching from the WEC days. I mean, he was really a staple of the WEC organization. One of the better submission fighters in that organization. I mean, this guy was always going in there, submitting guys left and right. He was like the Damian Maia, obviously for the lighter weight division, but he reminded me of a Damian Maia type fighter. He's worked on his striking. It's not going to be something that's that flashy. He's very defensive. He's a little bit. He can be quick at times. He can know what he knows when to explode in and land a couple shots, but he's really just trying to set up his grappling with the strikes. He's not really going in there to looking to take your head off. Go work in some leg kicks here and there. But again, this is really a striking versus grappler type matchup. I do believe that. And again, though, Kang has had flashes of looking very good on the feet. He's a big boy for the division. The Ricardo Ramos fight was a really entertaining fight. They were really going at it. Two very talented strikers. I mean, if you could hang with Ramos there, he lost via split decision, and Ramos is a talented dude there. So I mean, he showed some of his striking skills there. The split decision though has really bit him. Excuse me, I shouldn't say bit him in the butt. It's came through for him, but it's been something that happens to him quite often, right? His last two fights, split decision victories, the split decision loss against Ramos. So I mean, this is a guy that really tends to have close fights play out. This is a fight that I've been a little bit back and forth with, but I gotta go with my brother Hani Yahya here. Again, I've seen this guy fight so many times. I mean, it brings me back to when I was a young kid, really watching him fight and just kind of analyzing his grappling game and really being impressed with it. I mean, this was the guy that you looked to when you analyzed a jiu-jitsu player coming to the MMA scene and implementing his style, just getting sub after sub. And if you want to take a look at what I'm talking about, I mean, in his last fight, had the arm triangle choke over Ray Rodriguez, heel hook over Luke Saunders, arm triangle choke on Russell Doan, Kimura on Henry Briones, arm triangle choke on Matthew Lopez, Kimura on Johnny Bedford, now over at BKFC, north-south choke. You barely ever see that these days. That was against Josh Grisby. If you remember Josh Grisby, he was supposed to fight Aldo for the belt. Ends up losing to Dustin Poirier, though. Because that fight fell through with Aldo, then Poirier steps in. I think that's what happened if I remember correctly. North-south choke against Josh Hussman, rear naked choke against Eddie Wineland. I mean, this was over in WEC, man. He was subbing dudes left and right. Mark Hominick, rear naked choke, a Barbo choke over Yasuhiro. The list goes on and on. I mean, that's a very, very decorated resume, okay? I'm going to roll with my boy Yahya here. There's definitely a path for him to be defeated here if Kang can keep the fight on the feet and can kind of shine there. But at the end of the day, I got to roll with my boy here, Yahya. I'm going to say he's just crafty in there and is able to use the grappling. Even if he doesn't get a submission, he could maybe steal some rounds with the grappling, take a back or whatnot, control the round. And I got a lot of love for Hani, man. He's a guy that's been around the block. It's a close fight. It's a tricky fight. We take a look at the live line. Hani, it's a pick'em fight. People are right down the middle. Basically, every book is right down the middle. So I talk about pick your poison, pick your poison. Comment below. Who you guys taking here? I'm rolling with my boy Yahya. I'm sure a lot of you guys are on Kang here. He has that size advantage, has that striking advantage. Let's see if he can implement it. In the co-main event, Michael Chiesa takes on Sean Brady. We got a blue chip prospect in Sean Brady. This guy's legit. He's passed every test that he's taken so far. Just came off a big victory. Came off that big victory over Jake Matthews, the longtime UFC fighter. Took out Christian Aguilera before that. Before that, takes out Ismail Nurdiov, the Austrian Wonder Boy. At that time, he had a lot of respect. I don't know what's going on with him right now. Before that, takes out Court McGee, the Crusher. That was a tough victory right there in his UFC debut. This guy has passed all the tests. Now, will he pass this test? Taking his game up to another level. This is definitely a step up in competition in Chiesa. No Chiesa, super hungry coming off that loss. Taking that loss to Vicente Luque. Vicente Luque is just one of the more underrated fighters. Everybody was on Chiesa there for the most part. You guys know I'm high on Luque. I had Luque there all day. That was an official play of mine. And that's no real shade at Chiesa, man. Luque is just that good of a fighter. Before that, Chiesa ragdolled Neil Magny. That's impressive. Ragdolled Rafael Dos Anjos. Took out Diego Sanchez, Carlos Condit. Chiesa is a big boy. Remember, he used to fight down at the lightweight division, which is crazy. I mean, he's a humongous welterweight these days. 6'1", 75.5-inch reach. He'll have a 3-inch reach advantage over Brady. Chiesa, a tricky striker, solid grappler. This guy will hang on you and do all types of maneuvers there. But how about Sean Brady? Sean Brady is a guy that's really shown to be a solid grappler, a solid striker, just a very well-rounded fighter. A lot of people have him marked to be a top guy in the division. He's a top up-and-comer. A lot of people think he's going to go really far. I'm high on him. I've been high on him from the beginning, but I still think he has to prove a little bit more to me. I'm not going to say that Brady is as hot as a prospect as some of these other guys that I talk about. You guys know sometimes I'll attach my name to some of these fighters from the jump. I'm not necessarily sure if I'm on Brady like that. I got to see a little bit more from him. He's a very cerebral fighter. He knows what he needs to do to get the victory. You see him here with Neil Magny. So, training with a guy that was just in there with Chiesa, that will always help you out. I mean, whether or not you win or lose, you learn something from being in there with your opponent. So, sure he was learning some tricks from Magny there, and so trying to get some redemption there, and yeah, I mean, this is a good fight. I think that Brady really does have some potential. Again, extremely well-rounded fighter. And as of recently, coming off 2 submission victories, before that 2 decisions, and then before that a knockout over at the CFFC organization. Fighting out of Philly, training at a Henzo Gracie Philly, which we have another fighter fighting on this fight card coming out of there. Both these guys really looking good with the grappling. Let's see if he can go out there and submit Michael Chiesa. Now, Michael Chiesa is a great grappler in his own right, but this is a guy that's definitely... he's definitely shown to have holes in his grappling as far as his submission defense goes. Remember the Kevin Lee fight? I don't care if you call that an early stoppage or not. He was on his way to go out because that submission was locked in and Kevin Lee wasn't going anywhere. As of recently, Luque just caught him with the Darce, right? Caught him with the Darce. Yep, caught him with that Darce submission. People sleeping on Luque's submission abilities, don't realize how well-rounded he is. He is the dark horse to fight for the belt. I mean, unless he gets fed to Khamzat. Poor Burns too. I'll talk about that real quick. Poor Gilbert Burns. At least he admits the level of skill that he believes Khamzat has. He knows he's the real deal, but he should try to avoid that fight. Otherwise, he's going to get fed to Khamzat. Khamzat's going to go out there and eat these guys for lunch. The future champion Khamzat Chimaev. But let me digress here. Sean Brady, great talent to be added to the division. I got Sean Brady here. I think Sean Brady will get the better of the striking exchanges on the feet. I would not be surprised if Brady pulls off a submission on Chiesa. I would not be surprised if Brady dominates Chiesa in the grappling department, or maybe not even say dominates, but betters him there. Again, Chiesa's tricky. I like how Brady will be a little bit more stout, a little bit stronger, a little bit more grounded with his discipline. Chiesa can get a little wild at times. He's funky, and I think that Brady will be a little bit grounded and a little bit stronger. And I think that Brady should come through here. Brady right around a -150 for this fight as the favorite. That's what Tapology is showing. Let's take a look at the live line. A little bit of action coming in on him. At BetMGM opened him up at a -145. Now has him at a -165. I like Brady to win that fight. All right, guys, we made it to the main event of the card. Once again, guys, if you haven't already, please hit that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel. We're creeping up to that 5K. And if you are not already following me on Instagram, please do. Trying to creep my way to 10,000 followers on Instagram so I can start being able to do certain things that I'm not able to do with Instagram right now, like put links in my story and whatnot. So please go over there, follow me. I promise you guys I'll have great content coming at you guys. And if you want to work with me, with my official plays, do not hesitate to reach out to me. Shoot me a message. I'll give you my pricing. Coming off another profitable weekend. And you guys know we've been absolutely killing it this entire year, and particularly in the last 3 months, we've been absolutely killing it, going on to 4 months now. So do not hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to work with you guys. This is going to be another profitable event. I feel good about it. We have some solid plays here, and do not be shy. I got my email below. MMAFortuneteller@gmail.com, Instagram MMAFortuneteller_. Otherwise, you can even shoot me a message on Twitter, the MMA Teller. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Now, with no further ado, we got Miesha Tate taking on Ketlen Vieira. Of course, Miesha takes a long break from the fight game, almost 5 years since the Raquel Pennington fight. She talked about issues that she had outside the octagon. She wasn't in the right state of mind. She had a toxic relationship with a former UFC fighter, name slipping my mind, but you guys know I'm talking about. Brian Caraway, was it Brian Caraway? But again, now she's in a way better state of mind. She's married to Johnny Muñez. She has kids with him. She says that she feels great. The kids are not slowing her down in any type of way, that they actually motivate her. She's got everything going good. They got her on the grind. And as far as putting herself in the right state of mind, she's in the best state of mind that she's ever been. And she has the best support system that she's ever had. And hence why she is she is in her mind at her greatest abilities right now. And it's kind of hard to argue with her, although she's 35 years old. The performance that she put on against Marion Renault was impressive. She went in there, she finished her. She looked good in all aspects of the fight. And now she gets Ketlen Vieira, a step up in competition. Ketlen only won one of her last 3 fights. Losses to Irene Aldana. She got caught there. And lost to Yana Kunitskaya, where Yana really took over that fight. And I think you want to look into that Yana Kunitskaya fight, because that was a fight where Ketlen started off strong and then begun to somewhat get broken down. You know, Yana was bloodied up but kept going forward. You guys know that's exactly what Miesha is about. Miesha is all about taking shots and pushing forward and looking to break you. That's what she's been about her entire career. You know, again, looking great here against Marion. If you're not familiar, though, what Miesha Tate has been doing throughout her entire career, run the tape back in all her fights, from her fights with Ronda Rousey, from her amazing fight with Kat Zingano. I mean, she's just always shown to be a warrior. I've been a big fan of hers since the Strikeforce days. She has solid boxing, good footwork. She's a solid wrestler. She has that wrestling background. You know, she was wrestling with boys since she was a young kid, and she's an athlete. And at 35, let's not forget, you know, in this division, the women can hang around a little bit longer than the men, in my opinion. She has a lot of knowledge here. She's a crafty veteran, and I think this has the makings to be a good fight for her. But let me say, Ketlen is no joke. I know Ketlen's hit some turbulence as of recently. Ketlen has good striking. She's a well-rounded fighter. She'll crack you with elbows. She'll crack you with her boxing. She has a very solid frame for the division. This is a big fight for her. She's as hungry as ever. From a physical standpoint, she's going to have a 1.5 reach advantage. She's 2 inches taller, a little bit more of the naturally bigger woman, but I wouldn't say too much going on there. I wouldn't look too much into that. But Ketlen Vieira is a solid girl here. I do believe Vieira, again, is a step up in competition compared to Renault. Renault, in her mid-40s going into this fight. You know, we're really going to see what Miesha's about right now. This is a great comeback fight from her. You know, of course, her second fight as of coming back, but this is the real comeback fight now. How is she going to perform here? Can she implement her boxing game? She's in phenomenal shape, as you guys see. Her cardio is always good. She's always continuously throwing down. She's been in wars, and I got to roll with Miesha here. Miesha has just shown me that she is dedicated to the return. Again, she was successful in her last fight. I think that she could land some solid shots with the boxing. I think that she can mix things up, and I think that she could take over in this fight in the later rounds. It's a 5-round fight. I really edge Miesha as this fight goes into the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds. I think that her heart and her will is really second to none, and I got to roll with her here. She feels that fate is on her side to come back and win the belt, and I'm not saying that I'm necessarily gonna agree with that at the moment. She has to show me some more, but this will be a great step into that direction. I got Miesha Tate to win the fight. We'll take a look at the live line here. It's a very, very close fight. The fight is very, very close. There's a slight lean on Miesha here. Very slight lean here. And again, Ketlen's a dangerous fighter. Phenomenal. You take a look at some of her big victories. Took out Kat Zingano. That's a common opponent, but in a whole different era. Of course, Kat did take out Miesha. Has an arm triangle choke over Sarah McMahon, the Olympian. Victory over Ashley Evans Smith, a solid-sized girl. But, other than that, she's in the UFC video game. Got to give her credit there. Victory over Sajara Eubanks, who's been looking good. It's hard to really judge Vieira at this point. This is a big fight for her. We'll see how she looks here. She's 11-2. This would be the biggest win of her career if she can pull off a big time victory over Miesha. I think Miesha gets it done though, and that's who I'm taking to win the fight. So that will be my pick for the main event. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap up UFC Vegas 43. Again, hit that like button for me before you leave here. If you hung around this long, man, shoot me a little bit of support here. And for my parting words, I'll make it simple. I'm running out of things to say. I'm going to have to start recycling through them. I'll think of some new good ones. But for this one, make sure you're taking care of your vehicles. Make sure you're getting your oil changed. If you got a nice car, take care of it. And don't forget about that. Make sure you're doing proper upkeep on your car. I know it's a weak one, but again, nothing coming to mind right now. You guys, let's cash out on this fight card. Let's hit all of our plays. Let's make it another profitable event. Do not hesitate to reach out to me if you want to work with me on my official plays. It's going to be another profitable event, guaranteed. All right, guys. On that note, signing out, the Teller.
The MMA Fortune Teller.
The Teller. The Teller. The Teller. The Teller.